Evening.
That's Bob. He's
May I have your attention, please?
Zoning.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Good evening. Happy New Year to everyone. I'd like to invite everyone to the January 4th, 2016 reorganization meeting. I'll start by roll call. Commissioner-elect Mr. D'Amelio.
Present.
Mr. Leva.
Present.
Commissioner-elect Mr. McCluskey.
Present.
Mr. Siegel.
Here.
Commissioner-elect Mr. Lewis.
Here.
Mr. Holmes.
Here.
Commissioner-elect Mr. McGarity.
Here.
Mr. Connell.
Here.
And Commissioner-elect Mr. Reckler. Here. We all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Chief? Okay. All righty, we'll start with the swearing-in ceremony. First will be Ward Commissioner, First Ward Commissioner-elect Steve D'Amelio, sworn in by the Honorable Elisa LaCianca.
It's right there. It's right behind you.
Let's see if, no, I'm holding one. You know the pictures? Lori?
I, Stephen D'Amelio,
I, Stephen D'Amelio,
solemnly affirm
solemnly affirm
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and that I discharge
and that I discharge
the duties of my office
the duties of my office
with fidelity,
with fidelity,
that I have not paid
that I have not paid
or contributed
or
promised to pay
or promised to pay
or contribute, either directly or indirectly,
either directly or indirectly,
any money
any money
or other valuable thing
or other valuable thing
to procure my appointment
to procure my appointment
as Township Commissioner
as Township Commissioner
of the Township of Haverford,
of the Township of Haverford,
except for necessary and proper
except for necessary and proper
expenses
expenses
expressly authorized by law.
expressly authorized by law.
Congratulations.
All set.
Congratulations, Commissioner. Next, we will be swearing in the Third Ward Commissioner-elect, Kevin McCluskey, again sworn in by...
I, Kevin McCluskey,
Do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and that I will discharge
and I will discharge
the duties of my office
the duties of my office
with fidelity,
with fidelity,
that I have not paid
that I have not paid
or contributed
or
promised to pay
or promised to pay
or contribute,
or contribute,
either directly or indirectly,
directly or indirectly,
any money or other valuable thing
either money or any valuable thing,
to procure my appointment
for my appointment
as Township Commissioner
as Township Commissioner
of the Township of Haverford,
of the Township of Haverford,
except for
except for
necessary and proper expenses
necessary and proper expenses
expressly authorized by law.
expressly authorized by law.
Congratulations, Commissioner. At this time, we'll call a Fifth Ward Commissioner-elect, Mr. Andrew Lewis, again sworn in by the Honorable Lisa Lassian.
I, Andy Lewis,
I, Andy Lewis,
do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and that I will discharge
and that I will discharge
the duties of my office
the duties of my office
with
with
fidelity,
fidelity,
that I have not paid
or contributed
or promised to pay
or contributed
either directly or indirectly
any money
or other valuable thing
to procure my appointment
as Township Commissioner
of the Township of Haverford,
except for
necessary and proper expenses
expressly authorized by law.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Commissioner. Congratulations.
Thank you, Larry.
At this time, we'll call the Seventh Ward Commissioner-elect, Mr. James McGarity, again sworn in by the Honorable Lisa Lassianca.
I, James E. McGarity, do solemnly affirm that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this Commonwealth, and I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity, that I have not paid or contributed or promised to pay or contribute either directly or indirectly any money or other valuable things to procure my appointment as Township Commissioner of the Township of Haverford, except for necessary and proper expenses expressly authorized by law. Thank you, Lisa.
Congratulations, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Now call the Ninth Ward Commissioner-elect, Mr. William Wexler, and he'll be sworn in by the Honorable Robert D. Agostino.
I, William F. Wexler,
I, William F. Wexler,
do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and that I discharge the duties of my office with fidelity,
and I discharge the duties of my office with fidelity,
that I have not paid or contributed
that I have not paid nor contributed
or promised to pay or contribute,
or promised to pay or contribute,
either directly or indirectly,
either directly or indirectly,
any money or other valuable thing
any money or other valuable thing
to procure my appointment as Township Commissioner
to procure my appointment as Township Commissioner
of the Township of Haverford,
of the Township of Haverford,
except for necessary and proper expenses
except for necessary and proper expenses
expressly authorized by law.
expressly authorized by law.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Commissioner. Okay, at this time, the chair will now accepting nominations for the president of the Board of Commissioners for the year 2016.
Kelly, I'd like to nominate Chris Connell as President of the Board of Commissioners.
I second that nomination.
Mr. Township Manager, I would like to nominate Fourth Ward Commissioner Dan Siegel for President of the Board of Commissioners.
I second that nomination.
Any other nominations at this time?
Nominations be closed.
Does the floor have any nominations for the president? Anyone in the audience? Motion again to close the nominations.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Roll. Mr. D'Amelio.
Mr. Connell.
Mr. Levin.
Commissioner Connell. Commissioner Connell.
McCluskey.
Commissioner Siegel.
Mr. Siegel.
Commissioner Siegel.
Mr. Lewis.
Commissioner Connell.
Mr. Holmes.
Commissioner Siegel.
Mr. McGarity.
Commissioner Connell.
Mr. Connell.
Commissioner Connell.
And Mr. Wexler.
Commissioner Connell.
Congratulations, Mr. Connell.
Hold on. Everybody else is going to make it.
Switch around and not.
Now you're good right after.
Oh, yeah.
You'll shift over after this.
It'll only take a second. You let me know when you're ready.
All right. Good evening, and thank you very much for your support. And at this time, I would like to take nominations for Vice President of the Board of Commissioners.
Mr. President, I would like to nominate Mario Oliva to serve as Vice President of the Board of Commissioners.
I'll second that.
Mario Oliva, and seconded. And thank you. Any more nominations for the board?
Mr. President, I
Commissioner
nominate
Siegel.
Larry Holmes for Vice President of the Board of Commissioners.
Larry Holmes,
I second that.
seconded. Are there any other nominations for the board for Vice President? Okay, I'd like to close the nominations.
Close the nominations.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, nominations are closed. Mr. Gentili, please take the roll.
Mr. D'Amelio.
Mr. Oliva.
Mr. Oliva.
Mr. Oliva.
Mr. McCluskey.
Commissioner Holmes.
Mr. Siegel.
Commissioner Holmes.
Mr. Lewis.
Commissioner Oliva.
Mr. Holmes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Mr. McGarity.
Commissioner Oliva.
Mr. Wexler.
Commissioner Oliva.
And Mr. Connell.
Commissioner Oliva.
good to go. Come on down.
Mary.
Yeah, how about you? Busy? Yeah, look, take your time, okay? Where? What you got? Larry? Would have to be shut down. You want to plug it in, right? I can't even remember my wife's date of birth. I'm sorry, I misplaced one thing here. No. No, that was just a dog fight. Delaware or Delaware. All right, good to go. Delaware. Okay. Item number 5 on the agenda is appointments administrative.
President, I'd like to make a motion to reappoint McNichol, Byrne, Matlosky as Township Solicitor for a one-year term to expire December 31st, 2016.
Second.
All right. Commissioner Wexler for McNichol, Byrne, and Matlowski, and it was seconded by Commissioner McGarity. Any other nominations?
Nominations.
To close.
Second.
Motion to close by Commissioner D'Amelio and seconded by Mr. McGarity. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Can take your seat.
Mr. D'Amelio.
McNichol, Byrne, and yeah. What is it? What's the
Matlowski.
Matlowski. Tough time with his name.
Mr. McCluskey.
And Nickel, Byrne, and McCloskey.
Mr. Siegel.
McNichol, Byrne, and Metlowski.
Mr. Lewis.
Mr. Byrne.
Mr. Holmes.
Mr. Byrne.
Mr.
There you go.
McGarity.
I'll follow suit, Mr. Byrne.
Mr. Wexler.
Mr. Burns' firm.
And Mr. Oliva.
Mr. Byrne.
And Mr. Connell.
Mr. Burton.
For the record, it says Byrne right here on the form, as opposed to McNichol, Byrne, and Metlowski, so. In
Congratulations,
case he were to change firms.
Mr. Burns, McNichol, Byrne, and Matlowski.
Mr. Byrne and his firm, thank you very much.
Continuing on, number 5, we have the Civil Service Commission, and we will entertain nominations for the Civil Service Commission.
Civil Service Solicitor.
Solicitor, excuse me.
Mr. President,
Solicitor, yeah.
Mr. President, I would like to move to reappoint Dave Rhodey as Civil Service Commissioner, Solicitor for a one-year term to expire December 31st, 2016.
Second.
Mr. Lewis, and seconded by
McGarity.
Wexler. Go Wexler.
Mr. Wexler.
Motion to close.
Are there any other nominations?
Second.
Okay. Motion to close,
Motion to close.
Second.
and seconded by Mr. Oliva. Okay, take the roll, please.
Mr. D'Amelio.
Mr. Rhodey.
Mr. McCluskey.
Mr. Rhodey.
Mr. Siegel.
Mr. Rhodey.
Mr. Lewis.
Mr. Rhodey.
Mr. Holmes.
Mr. Rhodey.
McGarity.
Mr. Rhodey.
Mr. Wexler.
Mr. Rhodey.
Mr. Oliva.
Mr. Rhodey.
And Mr. Connell.
Mr. Rhodey. Is Mr. Rhodey here?
No, I didn't see him.
Well, congratulations, Mr. Rhodey, on your Commissioner's Civil Service Commission Solicitor. Continuing on, Board will take a motion for the Township Engineer.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to confirm the Township Manager's appointment of Pannoni and Associates as Township Engineer to expire December 31st, 2016.
Mr. Wexler for Pannoni Associates.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner D'Amelio. Are there any other nominations?
Motion to close?
Motion to close.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Take the roll, please.
Mr. D'Amelio,
Pannoni?
McCluskey,
Mr. Pannoni.
Mr. Siegel,
Mr. Pannoni.
Mr. Lewis,
Mr. Pannoni.
Mr. Holmes,
Mr. Pannoni.
Mr. McGarity,
Mr. Pannoni.
Mr. Wexler,
Mr. Pannoni.
Mr. Oliva,
Mr. Pannoni.
and Mr. Connell.
Mr. Pannoni. Congratulations, Mr. Pannoni of Pannoni Associates. Item number 6, resolution number 1996-2016.
Mr. President,
Commissioner D'Amelio.
I'd like to make a motion to,
Reappoint?
I'm sorry, adopt resolution
resolution.
1996-2006, appointing the following boards and commissions.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner McGarity. Any questions? Take the roll, please.
Mr. D'Amelio,
Yes.
McCluskey,
Yes.
Mr. Siegel,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis.
Yes.
Mr. Holmes,
Yes.
Mr. McGarity.
Yes.
Mr. Wexler,
Yes.
Mr. Oliva,
Yes.
Mr. Connell.
Yes. Item number 7, appointments.
Mr. Chairman?
The first appointment will be the Civil Service Commission for a 6-year term.
sorry.
Commissioner D'Amelio.
I'm sorry, jumped the gun there. Motion to reappoint Janet Pacello to serve on the Civil Service Commission for a 6-year term to expire December 31st, 2021.
Second.
Okay.
Janet Pacella has recommendation by Commissioner D'Amelio and seconded by Commissioner Wexler. Any other nominations for this position?
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Take the roll.
Mr. D'Amelio,
Janet Pacello?
Mr. McCluskey,
Janet Pacello.
Mr. Siegel,
Ms. Pacella?
Mr. Lewis,
Janet Pacello.
Mr. Holmes,
Ms. Pacella.
Mr. McGarity,
Janet Pacella.
Mr. Wexler,
Ms. Pacella.
Mr. Oliva,
Janet Pacello.
and Mr. Connell.
And Janet Pacello. Congratulations, Mrs. Pacello, on your... Here in the audience, I saw her somewhere back there,
Right
I
here.
believe it is.
Congratulations.
The board will now entertain nominations for Friends of the Grange. There are 3 positions for a 1-year term.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to reappoint Mr. Chad Brooks to serve on the Friends of the Grange for a term of 1 year to expire December 31st, 2016.
Mr. McGarity for Chad Brooks,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Wexler.
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Take the roll, please.
Mr. D'Amelio,
Mr. Brooks?
Mr. McCluskey,
Mr. Brooks.
Mr. Siegel,
Mr. Brooks?
Mr. Lewis,
Mr. Brooks.
Mr. Holmes,
Mr. Brooks.
Mr. McGarity,
Chad Brooks.
Mr. Wexler,
Mr. Brooks.
Mr. Oliva,
Mr. Brooks.
and Mr. Connell.
Mr. Brooks, congratulations, Mr. Brooks. Are you here in the audience tonight? huh? Second position for Friends of the Grange.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to reappoint Mr. Connor Quinn to serve on the Friends of the Grange for a term of 1 year to expire December 31st, 2016.
Mr.
Seconded.
McGarity for Mr. Quinn and seconded by Commissioner Oliva.
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Take the roll, please. Thank you.
Mr. D'Amelio,
Connor Quinn.
Mr. McCluskey,
Connor Quinn.
Mr. Siegel,
Mr. Quinn?
Mr. Lewis,
Mr. Quinn.
Mr. Holmes,
Mr. Quinn.
Mr. McGarity,
Aye, Connor Quinn.
Mr. Wexler,
Mr. Quinn.
Mr. Oliva,
Mr. Quinn.
and Mr. Connell.
And Mr. Quinn. Mr. Quinn, congratulations.
Right here.
Third position for Friends of the Grange. This also is a one-year term.
And Mr. President, I would like to appoint George Harding to serve as on the board of the Friends of the Grange for a term of 1 year to expire on December 31st, 2016.
Mr.
Second.
Lewis for George Harding, and seconded by Commissioner McGarity.
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Take the roll.
Mr. D'Amelio.
Mr. Harding.
Mr. McCluskey.
Mr. Harding.
Mr. Siegel.
Mr. Harding.
Mr. Lewis.
Yes, Mr. Harding.
Mr. Holmes.
Mr. Harding.
Mr. McGarity.
Mr. Harding.
Mr. Wexler.
Mr. Harding.
Mr. Oliva.
Mr. Harding.
And Mr. Connell.
Mr. Harding, congratulations, George Harding, for the position
Right
for
here.
the Grange.
Right in the back.
Congratulations. Okay. Next on the list is the Health Advisory Board. It's a 5-year term,
Wait a minute.
and I'll take nominations for this position.
Mr. President, I'd like to appoint Susan Hands Barb to serve on the Health Advisory Board for a 5-year term to expire December 31st, 2020.
Second.
Mr. President, I would like to move Dr. John Devine to serve on the Health Advisory Board for a 5-year term to expire on December 31st, 2020.
Okay, Commissioner Holmes, and seconded by
Seconded.
Mr. McCluskey. Okay.
Motion to close.
Yeah, I
Motion.
apologize. Who seconded,
McCluskey.
Mrs.,
Mr. Holmes was for the first one.
Jimmy did Susan Hands Barb.
Mr. Oliva and Mr. McGarity.
thank you.
Okay.
Motion to close.
Yep.
Motion to close
Motion to
nominations.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, take the roll.
Mr. D'Amelio.
Ms. Hands.
Mr. McCluskey.
Dr. Devine.
Mr. Siegel.
Ms. Barb.
Mr. Lewis.
Susan Barb.
Mr. Holmes.
Dr. Devine.
Mr. McGarity.
Susan Bourne.
Mr. Wexler.
Susan Hands Barb.
Mr. Oliva.
Susan Hands Barb.
And Mr. Connell.
Susan Hambarb. Congratulations on your appointment, Ms. Barb, to the Health Advisory Board. Good this evening?
Okay.
Next one is the...
If I could, Mr. President, I just interrupt for 1 second. I just want to note, we had an extraordinary group of people come here for that one spot. I mean, the interviews and the credentials of all the folks. So I want to thank, obviously I want to congratulate Ms. Barr on her appointment, but to thank everybody who came out. While we've had a great turnout in all of these interviews this year, we had 5 or 6 extraordinary candidates to choose from in the Health Advisory Board this year. And I think it really bodes well for the enthusiasm and I think the excitement in this township for more people to get involved in things. So I just, there's a lot of people to choose from tonight, but of all the interviews we conducted, these were the most, this was the most difficult pick. There were very, very terrifically qualified people in this. Sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to make that point to all the candidates, but particularly to these 5.
Certainly, I thought we could do it at the end, but most appropriate for this time. Thank you, Commissioner. Historical Commission 4-year term. There are 2 positions, both for the full 4-year full term. I'll take nominations.
Mr. President, motion to reappoint Scott Winger to serve.
Have you Scott Winger, and seconded?
Second.
Okay.
Well,
Or do you want to go?
What, you want to do two together? Or are we just doing one at a time?
I would do one at a time.
Okay, go
Yeah.
ahead, one at a time. Go ahead.
Motion to close?
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Take the roll, please.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Mr. Winger.
Mr. McCluskey?
Mr. Winger.
Mr. Siegel?
Mr. Winger.
Mr. Lewis?
Mr. Winger.
Mr. Holmes?
Mr. Winger.
Mr. McGarity?
Mr. Winger.
Mr. Wexler?
Scott Winger.
Mr. Oliva?
Mr. Winger?
And Mr. Connell.
Mayor, congratulations on your four-year term, back the reappointment to the Historical Commission. You here this evening?
No.
I don't see him.
Okay.
Okay. Good.
All right, entertain nomination for appointment or reappointment for second position.
Mr. President, I'd like to reappoint John Marshall to serve on the Historic Commission for a four-year term to expire on December 31st, 2019.
Second.
And seconded by Commissioner D'Amelio. Motion to close?
Motion to close.
Motion
Mr. President,
Second.
I had another nomination. Is it closed or not?
I did. I seconded the close.
It was seconded.
Hasn't been voted on, though.
Okay,
well,
well,
run the ayes and nays.
let's keep it open then, and go ahead with your nomination.
I was going to nominate Rich Carter.
Rich Carter. Okay, we have a nomination on the board also for Rich Carter, and it's seconded by?
Nobody yet.
Please, one second.
I'll second.
Appointment, I think.
No.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Wexler. Motion to close the nominations?
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Take the roll, please.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Mr. Marshall.
Mr. McCluskey?
Mr. Marshall.
Mr. Siegel?
Mr. Carter.
Mr. Lewis?
Mr. Marshall.
Mr. Holmes?
Mr. Carter.
Mr. McGarity?
Mr. Marshall.
Mr. Wexler?
Mr. Marshall.
Mr. Holmes? Mr. Oliva?
Mr. Marshall.
And Mr. Connell.
And Mr. Marshall. And John Marshall has it. Congratulations, Mr. Marshall. I don't see him here. Is he not here? Okay. Moving on to the Human Relations Commission, three-year term. There are three full-time term seats that are open here, and there is one seat that is to finish an unexpired term. We'll entertain a candidate for the first full-time position.
Mr. President,
Mr. Oliva?
I would like to make a motion to reappoint Jennifer Leith to serve on the Human Relations Commission for a three-year term to expire December 31st, 2018.
I second that.
Seconded by Mr. Holmes. Okay.
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Take the roll, please.
What was the first name?
Jennifer?
Leith.
Jennifer Lee. Thanks.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Ms. Lee.
Mr. McCluskey?
Jen Leith.
Mr. Siegel?
Ms. Leith.
Mr. Lewis?
Jennifer Leith.
Mr. Holmes?
Ms. Leith.
Mr. McGarity?
Jennifer Lee.
Mr. Wexler?
Miss Leith.
Mr. Oliva?
Jennifer Leith.
And Mr. Connell.
Jennifer Lee. Congratulations, Ms. Lee, on your position for the Human Relations Commission. Okay, I'll entertain appointment or reappointment for the second full-time position.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Virginia Hammond to serve on the Human Relations Commission for a three-year term to expire December 31st, 2018.
Second.
Second.
Mr. Wexler, and seconded by Mr. Lewis.
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Take the roll.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Ms. Hyman.
McCluskey?
Virginia Hammond.
Mr. Siegel?
Ms. Hammond.
Mr. Lewis?
Virginia Hammond.
Mr. Holmes?
Ms. Hammond.
McGarity?
Wonderful pick, Ms. Hammond.
Mr. Wexler?
Virginia Hammond.
Mr. Oliva?
Virginia Hammond.
And Mr. Connell.
Virginia Hammond. Congratulations, Virginia Hammond, on your position. And this is a new appointee. Second full-time position for Human Relations.
Third.
I'm sorry, third one? Okay.
Mr. President,
Mr. Oliva.
motion to appoint Bill Gowie to serve on the Human Relations Commission for a 3-year term to expire December 31st, 2018.
Second.
What was the name?
Bill Gowie?
Bill Gowie.
Gowie.
Yes.
Second.
Motion to close.
Second.
Mr. President,
Oh,
What?
wait a minute. He's got it. I withdrew my second.
yeah, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Mr. Paul Sofer to serve on the Human Relations Commission for a 3-year term to expire December 31st, 2018.
Second.
Okay, and that was by Mr. McCluskey and Mr. Holmes.
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes, let me get some paperwork right down here, okay. Take the roll, please.
Yes, sir. Mr. D'Amelio.
Mr. Gowie.
Mr. McCluskey.
Mr. Sofer,
Mr. Siegel.
Mr. Gowie.
Mr. Lewis.
Mr. Gowie.
Mr. Holmes.
Mr. Sofer.
McGarity.
Bill Gowie.
Mr. Wexler.
Mr. Gowie.
Mr. Oliva.
Mr. Gowie.
Mr. Connell.
And Mr. Gowie. Congratulations, Mr. Gowie, on your position as a new appointment to Human Relations. This next position is the fourth position. It is to fill an unexpired 3-year term till December 31st, 2016. Nominations?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to appoint Kevin O'Neill to fill the unexpired 3-year term to expire December 31st, 2016.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Siegel.
Mr. President,
Mr. Holmes.
I would move that we nominate Paul Sofer to the unexpired term ending 2016.
seconded.
Seconded by Commissioner McCluskey.
Motion to close.
Motion to close.
Can you say the two names again?
The two names that we have are Kevin O'Neill and Paul Sofer. Kevin O'Neill was nominated by Commissioner McGarity, and Mr. Sofer was nominated by Commissioner Holmes.
And this is the unexpired 3-year term?
It's an unexpired 3-year term
Yeah,
It has one.
it's a 1-year term.
Left, essentially.
It's 1 year. It's to the end of the year.
till 2016. End of this year. Motion to close?
Motion to close.
Yeah, motion to close.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The roll?
Take a roll.
Yes, please. Yeah. that's right.
Mr. D'Amelio.
Mr. O'Neill.
Mr. McCluskey.
Mr. Sofer,
Mr. Siegel.
Mr. O'Neill.
Mr. Lewis.
Mr. O'Neill.
Mr. Holmes.
Mr. Sofer.
Mr. McGarity.
Mr. O'Neill.
Mr. Wexler.
Mr. O'Neill.
Mr. Oliva.
Mr. O'Neill.
And Mr. Connell.
Mr. O'Neill. Congratulations, Kevin O'Neill. 4-year, 1-year term. Okay. The next position, there are 5 seats. The ice skating rink advisory board. It's a 3-year term, and all 5 seats are for the full 3 years.
Mr. President, I'd make a motion to reappoint Mr. Joe Noon to serve on the Ice Skating Rink Advisory Board for a term of 3 years to expire on December 31st, 2018.
Second.
Mr. Noon and seconded by Mr. Lewis.
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Take the roll.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Yes.
Joe Noon.
Noon.
Mr. McCluskey?
Mr. Noon.
Mr. Siegel?
Sorry. I moved
Mr.
away
Noon.
from it.
Mr. Lewis?
Mr. Noon.
Mr. Holmes?
Mr. Noon.
Mr. McGarity?
Mr. Noon.
Mr. Wexler?
Mr. Noon.
Mr. Oliva?
Mr. Noon.
And Mr. Connell.
Mr. Noon. Congratulations, Joe Noon. I don't know if he's
And
here
now-
tonight.
and
That's a
now afternoon.
reappointment. And now afternoon. Yep, and afternoon. Now we have position number 2.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to reappoint Andrew Simcox to serve on the Ice Skating Rink Advisory Board for a term of 3 years to expire December 31st, 2018.
Second.
Mr. McGarity and seconded by Mr. D'Amelio.
Motion to close.
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Take the roll, please.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Mr. Simcox?
McCluskey?
Mr. Simcox.
Mr. Siegel?
Mr. Simcox?
Mr. Lewis?
Mr. Simcox.
Mr. Holmes?
Mr. Simcox.
Mr. McGarity?
Mr. Simcox.
Mr. Wexler?
Mr. Simcox.
Mr. Oliva?
Mr. Simcox?
And Mr. Connell.
Mr. Simcox. Congratulations, Andrew Simcox, on your reappointment to the Skating Advisory Board.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to reappoint Mr. Charles McGarvey to serve on the Ice Skating Rink Advisory Board for a term of 3 years to expire December 31st, 2018.
Second.
Commissioner McGarity and seconded by Mr. D'Amelio. Let me get that one out of there.
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Take the roll, please.
Mr. D'Amelio?
McGreevy.
McGarvey.
McGarvey. Sorry.
Mr.
Different.
Freudian slip.
Yeah, big difference on that one.
Big
Mr.
difference.
McCluskey?
Mr. McGarvey.
Mr. Siegel?
Mr. McGarvey?
Mr. Lewis?
Mr. McGarvey.
Mr. Holmes?
Mr. McGarvey.
McGarity?
Mr. McGarvey.
Mr. Wexler? Mr. Oliva?
McGarvey.
And Mr. Connell.
Mr. McGarvey. Congratulations, Charles McGarvey, on your reappointment to the Skating Advisory Board. Fourth position,
Mr. President.
Mr. Holmes.
President, I move we appoint Richard Caesar to the, serve on the Ice Skating Rink Advisory Board for a term of 3 years to expire on December 31st, 2018.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Lewis.
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Roll, please.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Mr. Caesar.
That name you ought to
Husky.
get right.
Mr. Caesar.
Mr.
Got
Siegel?
that, all right?
Mr. Caesar?
Mr. Lewis?
Mr. Caesar.
Mr. Holmes?
Rough night for the
Mr. Caesar.
Mr. McGarity?
Mr. Caesar.
Mr. Wexler?
Mr. Caesar.
Mr. Oliva?
Mr. Caesar.
And Mr. Connell.
Mr. Caesar. Congratulations, Rich Caesar, on your, it's a new appointee to the Skating Advisory Board. Number 5, the final position.
Mr. President, I'd like to move to appoint Peter Dugery to serve on the Ice Skating Rink Advisory Board for a term of 3 years to expire on December 31st, 2018.
Second.
By Commissioner D'Amelio. Who else was that? Was that you?
Yeah.
Dugree. Okay.
Get that right.
Motion to close?
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Take the roll.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Peter Dugree.
Mr. McCluskey?
Peter Dugery.
Mr. Siegel?
Mr. Dugree?
Mr. Lewis?
Peter Dugery.
Mr. Holmes?
Mr. Dugery.
Mr. McGarity?
Mr. Dugery.
Mr. Wexler?
Mr. Dugery.
Mr. Oliva?
Mr. Dugery.
And Mr. Connell.
Mr. Dugree, congratulations. This is a new appointee to the Skating Advisory Board. Library Board of Trustees, this is a 3-year term, and there are 3 seats.
Mr. President.
Mr. Holmes.
Mr. President, I move we appoint Richard Colleen to serve as a Library Board of Trustee member for the 3-year term to expire December 31st, 2018.
Second.
Mr. Chairman, I
Hold on a
make a
second.
motion to reappoint Mr. Rob Cohen to serve as Library Board of Trustee for a 3-year term to expire December 31st, 2018.
Second.
And seconded by Mr. D'Amelio. The other one was by Mr. Siegel.
Motion to close?
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Take the roll, please.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Robert Cohen.
Mr. McCluskey?
Mr. Colleen.
Mr. Siegel?
Mr. Cohen.
Mr. Lewis?
Mr. Cohen.
Mr. Holmes?
Mr. Colleen.
Mr. McGarity?
Mr. Cohen.
Mr. Wexler?
Mr. Cohen.
Mr. Oliva?
Mr. Cohen.
And Mr. Connell.
And Mr. Cohen. Congratulations, Rob Cohen, on your position.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to reappoint Monica Pacella to serve as a Library Board of Trustee for a 3-year term to expire December 31st, 2018.
Second.
Mr. McGarity, Mr. D'Amelio,
Mr. President.
Mr. Holmes.
Mr. President, I would like to appoint Richard Colleen to serve as a Library Board of Trustee member for a 3-year term to expire December 31st, 2018.
Second.
And seconded by Mr. Siegel. Close.
Motion to close?
Second.
Close. Motion to close.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Take the roll, please.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Monica Pacello.
Mr. McCluskey?
Mr. Colleen.
Mr. Siegel?
Mr. Colleen.
Mr. Lewis?
Monica Pacella.
Mr. Holmes?
Mr. Colleen.
McGarity?
Monica Pacella.
Mr. Wexler?
Ms. Pacello.
Mr. Oliva?
Monica Pacello.
And Mr. Connell.
Monica Pacella. Congratulations, Ms. Pacella, on your reappointment to the Library Board.
Mr. President.
Number 3,
Mr. President, I'd like to
Mr.
appoint
Wexler.
Madeline Ofria to serve as a Library Board of Trustee for a 3-year term to expire December 31st, 2018.
Second.
I'm sorry, who seconded that? Mr. President,
Mr. Holmes.
I would like to appoint Richard Colleen to serve as Library Board of Trustee member for a 3-year term to expire December 31st, 2018.
Seconded.
Commissioner McCluskey, was that you?
Yeah.
And seconded.
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Take the roll, please.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Madeline Ofria.
Mr. McCluskey?
Mr. Colleen.
Mr. Siegel?
Mr. Colleen.
Mr. Lewis?
Madeline Ofria.
Mr. Holmes?
Mr. Colleen.
Garrity?
Madeline Ofria.
Mr. Wexler?
Ms. Ofria.
Mr. Oliva?
Madeline Ofria.
And Mr. Connell.
And Madeline Ofria. Congratulations, Madeline Ofria. A new appointee to the Library Board. Parks and Recreation Board is a 5-year term. There are 3 seats. Nomination for first.
Mr. Chairman, may I reappoint Mr. Dave McGargle to serve on the Parks and Recreation Board for a term of 5 years to expire December 31st, 2020.
Second.
Okay, and their clarification, that is David McArdle
McGargle.
Dave McGardo.
with an A, okay.
Yes.
Sorry about that, Dave.
We didn't get Mr. McGarrigle back again, I just wanted to make sure.
Say that again? I might not have been the only, but yeah, sure.
I did second it also.
Now they're fighting over who seconded you, Dave, so you're in good shape.
Okay,
Actually, it's not always good having me on your side.
close.
Motion to close.
Maybe I should withdraw that right now, okay?
Second.
Whoever else wants to second it.
All in
do
favor?
not,
Come on.
Okay?
We got a second. Go
All in
ahead.
favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Take the roll, please.
Mr. D'Amelio.
Dave McCardle.
Mr. McCluskey.
Mr. McCardle.
Mr. Siegel.
Mr. McCardle.
Mr. Lewis.
Dave McCardle.
Mr. Holmes.
Mr. McCardle.
Mr. McGarity.
Mr. McCardle.
Mr. Wexler.
Dave McCardle.
Mr. Oliva.
Dave McGardle.
And Mr. Connell.
Mr. McArdle.
Mr. Chairman,
Congratulations on your reappointment. Position, Commissioner D'Amelio.
I'd like to appoint Rich Corrado to serve on the Parks and Recreation Board for a term of 5 years to expire on December 31st, 2020.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner McGarity.
Mr. President,
Mr. Holmes.
I would like to nominate Tom Capista for Parks and Recreation.
Tom Capista. And seconded by
Second.
Mr. Siegel. Motion to close.
Motion to close. Can I get
Need a second?
Motion to close, right?
Second by
Me.
Mr. McGarity. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Take the roll, please.
Mr. D'Amelio.
Mr. Corrado.
Mr. McCluskey.
Mr. Capisto.
Mr. Siegel.
Mr. Capista.
Mr. Lewis.
Rich Corrado.
Mr. Holmes.
Mr. Capista.
Mr. McGarity.
Rich Corrado.
Mr. Wexler.
Mr. Corrado.
Mr. Oliva.
Rich Corrado.
And Mr. Connell.
Rich Corrado. Congratulations, Mr. Corrado. New reappointment to the
Welcome back,
Parks
Rich.
and Rec. And the third and final position,
Mr. President,
Mr. Siegel.
I'd motion to appoint Tom Capista to serve for the 5-year term expiring December 31st, 2020.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Holmes.
Mr. President, I would like to reappoint Maria Pardini to serve on the Parks and Rec Board for a term of 5 years to expire December 31st, 2020.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. McGarity.
Motion to close?
Motion to close.
Second.
Somebody, okay. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Take the roll, please.
Mr. D'Amelio.
Maria Pardini.
Mr. McCluskey.
Mr. Capisto.
Mr. Siegel.
Mr. Capista.
Mr. Lewis.
Maria Pardini.
Mr. Holmes.
Mr. Capista.
McGarity.
Maria Pardini.
Mr. Wexler.
Ms. Pardini.
Mr. Oliva.
Maria Pardini.
And Mr. Connell.
Maria Pardini. Congratulations, Mrs. Pardini. for the reappointment to the Parks and Rec. Planning Commission, 4-year term and 2 seats.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
I'd like to
D'Amelio.
make a motion to reappoint Joseph Russo to serve on the Planning Commission for a 4-year term to expire on December 31st, 2019.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Oliva.
Motion to close.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Take the roll, please.
Mr. D'Amelio.
Mr. Russo.
Mr. McCluskey.
Mr. Russo.
Mr. Siegel.
Mr. Russo.
Mr. Lewis.
Mr. Russo.
Mr. Holmes.
Mr. Russo.
Mr. McGarity.
Mr. Russo.
Wexler.
Mr. Russo.
Mr. Oliva.
Mr. Russo.
And Mr. Connell.
Mr. Russo, congratulations, Joe, on your reappointment to the board.
President, because one of the persons who we are considering for zoning is also on the Planning Commission with a term that does not expire, this has not expired, I'd like to make a motion that we would defer the planning commission votes, the other votes, until after, so that if we have to fill that vacancy, we can do so?
Well, the other one needs to be filled.
Right, I'm saying,
Whether we have to,
I'm just asking that we
We're
would,
saying, though, that what you want to defer the second,
yeah, and then we can do them after zoning.
or what do we do the
Or
second one?
Or do the zoning now.
Yeah, do this,
right, we can go.
we can do the second one and then come back to the planning commission
Okay.
if that does happen.
Okay.
Well, no, there's a legitimate point to postponing it now, because if there's two spots instead of one, it may affect who people nominate and what order they do it. So if there's a potential vacancy on the planning commission that could happen right now, we should, because of the zoning board, we actually should have done the zoning board first.
Right, I agree.
Since it was going to create that, it may create that vacancy. So I would do
Okay,
that
we
now.
can,
So it would
Zoning.
yeah.
just be a
You
motion.
want to just
to-
move zoning up?
Yes, that's my
Okay, let's
point.
do-
We can do
okay.
that
I
too.
move the zoning up.
Whatever you want to do.
I don't know if we need to do that by motion on the agenda, Mr. Byrne.
Well,
or-
we're going to change that, Mr. Burns, is that?
Yeah, I mean, I would do it by motion if you're going to change the order of the agenda,
Right.
yeah.
So I would make a
Okay.
motion that we change the order of the agenda and take the zoning vote now before the remaining votes on the planning commission.
Second.
Who seconded it?
I did.
Mr. Lewis, okay. Motion made by Mr. Siegel and seconded by Mr. Lewis to move to the next votes for the positions for zoning hearing board. And all in favor? We can just do an all in favor for that?
Aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Okay. Zoning hearing board, there are 2 5-year terms. There are 2 seats for 5-year term.
There's not.
No, there's not.
There are.
5-year term. and
5-year
one-year
term, and, yeah, there are 2 seats, one's a 5-year term, and one is to fill
Fill the
a
term,
term
right.
for the 1 year expiring 2016.
Aye.
The first position will be for a 5-year term.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to reappoint Mr. Ken Richardson to serve on the zoning hearing board for a term of 5 years to expire December 31st, 2020.
Second.
Mr. President, I would move that we appoint William Rhodes to the 5-year term on the zoning hearing board for a term to expire on December 31st, 2020.
By Mr. Holmes, Mr.
Second.
Rhodes, seconded by Mr. Siegel.
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Take the roll, please. Mr. D'Amelio?
Mr. Richardson.
Mr. McCluskey?
Mr. Rhodes.
Mr. Siegel?
Mr. Rhodes.
Mr. Lewis?
Mr. Richardson.
Mr. Holmes?
Mr. Rhodes.
Mr. McGarity?
Proudly, Ken Richardson.
Mr. Wexler?
Mr. Richardson.
Mr. Oliva?
Mr. Richardson.
And Mr. Connell.
Mr. Richardson. Congratulations, Mr. Richardson. The second seat is for,
Mr. President, I'd like to move to appoint Bill Rhodes to serve on the zoning hearing board for a term of 5 years. Actually, it's 1 year, the unexpired
term.
term to expire on December 31st, 2016.
Second. Okay. Bill Wexler.
Motion to close?
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Take the roll, please.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Mr. Rhodes.
Mr. McCluskey?
Mr. Rhodes.
Mr. Siegel?
Mr. Rhodes.
Mr. Lewis?
Mr. Rhodes.
Mr. Holmes?
Mr. Rhodes.
Mr. McGarity?
Mr. Rhodes.
Mr. Wexler?
Mr. Rhodes.
Mr. Oliva?
Mr. Rhodes.
And Mr. Connell.
Mr. Rhodes, congratulations, William Rhodes, on your reassignment to the If we could please return then to the Planning Commission. We have a 4-year term.
Mr. President, I'd like to reappoint Christian Gauman to serve on the Planning Commission for a 4-year term to expire December 31st, 2019.
Second.
Seconded by Mr.
Made and
Siegel.
seconded?
Motion to close.
Sorry. Motion to close?
Motion to close.
I didn't hear the
Yep.
name.
Wait, hold on a second.
Chris
Which
Galvin.
term,
What,
what's
the
left on Rhodes's term?
1 year.
This is not for Rhodes' term. This is for.
This is a full 5-year term.
Full 5-year
Or
term.
4-year term.
Rhodes has 1 year left.
term.
This is,
Then I move, I'm sorry, is there a motion to close nominations? I'd like to add a nomination.
There is a motion to close.
If you take the vote, I'll nay it. Do you want to take a vote, or will we reopen it?
I'll withdraw the motion to close. I have no problem with that nomination.
I would like to nominate Richard Wynn for the Planning Commission for the full term.
Richard Wynn, Mr. Holmes.
just so we know, Mr. Galman is a reappointment, am I right?
Correct,
Okay.
yes.
A second for Mr. Wynn
Seconded.
by Mr. McCluskey. Motion to close?
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Roll.
Mr. D'Amelio,
Chris Galman.
Mr. McCluskey,
Chris Galman.
Mr. Siegel,
Mr. Galman,
Mr. Lewis,
Chris Galman.
and Mr. Holmes.
Mr. Wynn,
McGarity,
Chris Galman.
Mr. Wexler,
Mr. Galman.
Mr. Oliva,
Chris Galvin.
and Mr. Connell.
Mr. Galvin. Congratulations, Christian Galvin, on your position with the Planning Commission for your term. Senior Citizen Advisory Board.
Mr. President, we have one
We
more.
have the planning commission, the
I would-
one-year term.
yeah.
Mr.
I'm
President,
sorry, yep.
I
Go
think we
ahead.
have to first make a motion to add the additional,
Yeah, to add it to the agenda.
I'd make a motion to add to the agenda an appointment to serve on the Planning Commission to complete the unexpired term that ends on December 31st, 2016.
second.
Motion made by Mr. Siegel, seconded by Mr. Lewis.
Motion to close.
Second?
No.
We got to vote on adding it.
Oh, we got to vote on adding it. I thought you were
Yes.
closing the I'm sorry.
Aye.
Go ahead.
Well, we can do this
We can do it by voice vote.
We can do this by voice
Yeah,
vote.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Do you want us to repeat it? We know what it is.
Just the one-year
Take
term.
nomination for the one-year term. to
Mr.
expire.
President, I would like to appoint Richard Wynn to fill the unexpired 5-year term on the Planning Commission to expire on 12/31/16.
Second.
And seconded by Mr.
Close nomination?
D'Amelio.
Motion to close.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Take the roll, please.
Mr. D'Amelio,
Mr. Wynn.
Mr. McCluskey,
Mr. Wynn.
Mr. Siegel,
Mr. Wynn,
Mr. Lewis,
Mr. Wynn,
Mr. Holmes,
Mr. Wynn,
McGarity,
Mr. Wynn.
Mr. Wexler,
Mr. Wynn.
Mr. Oliva,
Mr. Wynn.
and Mr. Connell.
Mr. Nguyen, congratulations for the term to finish December 31st, 2016. Senior Citizen Advisory Council. Each commissioner appoints an individual from their ward. And gentlemen, I'll start with Mr. D'Amelio.
Mr. President, I'm going to have to pass, but I want to send my best wishes to Peg Giacomucci, who's been ill in recent days. Wish her very well, and I'll have to pass at this time.
Okay, but I do believe we have to take the motion on that. The motion to appoint the
No,
9
these are-
members.
These are
No?
these are appointees. They do
Okay.
not need a motion.
That's what's written here. Okay.
It's not correct on the agenda
Okay.
that way.
Mr. President, I will defer to the February meeting to appoint or reappoint someone to the Senior Citizen Advisory Council,
February or the
do it next
January
week,
meeting?
too.
or next week. when I get in touch with Ms. Duffin.
Okay. So we'll defer, okay. And Larry, go ahead. Or to Mr. Siegel.
We're at Mr. Siegel. Mr. Siegel?
I would appoint Harry Hollingsworth.
Mr. Lewis?
Would appoint Steve Cohen.
Mr. Holmes?
I need to defer mine for another week.
Garrity?
Well, I'm going to double check, but Joan Coogan has been on that board. I know she loves it, so I'm going to ask her to continue on.
I'm sorry, what was the first name again?
Joan?
Joan?
Are you going to defer, though, or?
Yeah, okay, I'll defer to a double check. I'm sure she'll be all right.
Mr. Wexler?
Mr. Bob Lewis?
Mr. Oliva?
Jack Doherty.
Connell?
And I'm going to defer. I have an individual and, okay. Shade Tree Commission is a 5-year term, and there's 1+1 on this.
Mr.
The first one's for a full 5 years.
Mr. President, I'd like to appoint David Schneck to serve on the Shade Tree Commission for a 5-year term to expire December 31st, 2020.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Lewis.
Motion to close.
Second? Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Take the roll.
Mr. D'Amelio?
David Schneck.
Mr. McCluskey?
Mr. Schneck.
Mr. Siegel?
Mr. Schneck.
Mr. Lewis?
David Schneck.
Mr. Holmes?
Mr. Schneck.
Mr. McGarity?
David Schneck.
Mr. Wexler?
Mr. Schneck.
Mr. Oliva?
Mr. Schneck.
And Mr. Connell?
Mr. Schneck. Congratulations, David Schneck. This is a new appointee to the Shade Tree Commission. The next one is to fill an unexpired 5-year term for December 31st, 2017.
Mr. President, motion to appoint Paul Davitt to fill the unexpired term to expire on December 31st,
Second?
2017.
By Mr. Holmes.
Motion to close.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Take the roll, please.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Paul Davitt.
McCluskey?
Mr. Davin.
Mr. Siegel?
Mr. Davitt.
Mr. Lewis?
Mr. Davitt.
Mr. Holmes?
Mr. Davitt.
Mr. McGarity?
Mr. Davitt.
Mr. Wexler?
Davitt.
Mr. Oliva?
Mr. Davitt.
And Mr. Connell?
Mr. Davitt. Congratulations, Paul Davitt. Is a new appointee to finish that 2-year term. Next position is the Vacancy Committee. It's a 1-year term.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to reappoint Mr. Christopher Lorario to serve on the Vacancy Committee for a term of 1 year to expire on December 31st, 2016.
Second?
Seconded by Mr. D'Amelio, or
To close?
Mr. Oliva.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Take the roll, please.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Mr. Lorario.
Mr. McCluskey?
Mr. Lorario.
Mr. Siegel?
Mr. Lorario.
Mr. Lewis?
Mr. Lorario.
Mr. Holmes?
Mr. Lorario.
Mr.
Mr.
McGarity?
Lorario.
Mr. Wexler?
Mr. Lorario.
Mr. Oliva?
Mr. Lorario.
Mr. Connell?
Mr. Lorario, congratulations. Next position is the Vacancy Property Review Committee. There are,
Sorry.
Mr. Holmes?
I would like to appoint Tom Rossi to the Vacancy Property Review Committee for a term 5 years to expire on December 31st, 2020.
Second?
Seconded by Mr. Oliva.
Motion to close.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Take the roll, please.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Mr. Rossi.
Mr. McCluskey?
Mr. Rossi.
Mr. Siegel?
Mr. Rossi.
Mr. Lewis?
Mr. Rossi.
Mr. Holmes?
Mr. Rossi.
McGarity?
Mr. Rossi.
Mr. Wexler?
Mr. Rossi.
Mr. Oliva?
Mr. Rossi.
Mr. Connell?
Mr. Rossi, congratulations. And That's with the 5-year, full one. The next two are for, the next position is for an unexpired 5-year term to expire on December 31st, 2018.
Mr. President,
Mr. Leva.
I'd like to appoint Chris Gauman to fill the unexpired 5-year term to expire on December 31st, 2019. There needs to be
Planning board.
somebody from the planning board on this.
Second.
So Chris has,
Okay. There was a second over here?
Second.
Okay.
Motion to
Motion.
close?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Take the roll, please.
Mr. D'Amelio.
Mr. Gauman.
Mr. McCluskey.
Mr. Galman.
Mr. Siegel.
Mr. Gauman.
Mr. Lewis.
Mr. Galman.
Mr. Holmes.
Mr. Gauman.
Mr. Garrity.
Chris Galman.
Mr. Wexler.
Mr. Gauman.
Mr. Oliva.
Chris Gauman.
And Mr. Connell.
Mr. Gauman. Congratulations, Mr. Gauman. This expires December 31st, 2018. And last one is a term expires on December 31st, 2019.
And Mr. President, I'd like to appoint Lori Hanlon Widdop to fill the unexpired 5-year term to expire on December 31st, 2019.
Second.
Seconded by Mr.
Make that for
McGarity.
10 years. Second.
That's, I don't, that means Lori, you're gonna have to,
Accept.
you're gonna have to stay on a little longer now, Lori.
She's getting redder, watch it.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
So I should
Man, that
not
is
go to
red.
the floor for any more nominations? No?
No more nominations.
Close them.
Close the nominations. We want Widdop.
And second. Close that.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Take the roll, please.
Mr. D'Amelio.
Miss Widdop.
Mr. McCluskey.
Ms. Widdop.
Mr. Siegel.
Ms. Widdop.
Mr. Lewis.
Lori Widdop.
Mr. Holmes.
Laurie Henlon with him.
Mr. Garrity.
Laurie Hanlon Widdop.
Mr. Wexler.
Ms. Widdop.
Mr. Oliva.
Miss Widdop.
And Mr. Connell.
Ms. Widdop. My congratulations to Ms. Widdop for her position on the... And that will actually conclude everything that we have here. The open position was taken care of.
You need a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay.
The next meeting, public meeting, will be on Monday, January 11th at 7 PM at this location. Thank you very much.
I'd like to ask everyone to stand up and offer a moment of silence for Officer Ken Krieg, who passed away this week. Thank you very much.
Would you like to take anything? Say anything at this time or no?
Officer Krieg was a member of the police department for 22 years. He was set to retire January 16th of this year. He became ill about 6 months ago with some serious health problems. Had a heart procedure done Christmas Eve, I think, Joe, and then never recovered from that. So we wish his family deepest condolences. But thank you for your thoughts. We appreciate it.
Before you go, you sent out, I think, something for the viewing.
Have that on your
Yes.
Thursday evening and Friday.
Thursday. It's the Naughton Funeral Home in Ridley, and then the churches in South Philadelphia. Give us 1 minute. We'll give the exact address.
Thank you.
All right, and prior to our adjourn, the board welcomes Commissioner McCluskey and Commissioner Lewis and all the other... Commissioner McGarity and Commissioner Wexler on your re-elections. Congratulations and good luck. Lieutenant?
The viewing information is from 6 to 9 at the Naughton Funeral Home at 746 Kenyon Avenue in Ridley Township, PA. And the viewing also will be from 9 to 10:45 at the Sacred Heart Church of Jesus Christ, located at 1420 South 3rd Street, Philadelphia. And the funeral mass will be immediately following at 11 o'clock.
Yeah, that Norton is, if you go by BJ's, it's straight down on your left-hand side, I think, isn't it?
Yes.
Sure, that way.
Yes.
Thank you.
We'll now take a motion to adjourn.
Oh, you know what, you're...
Second.
All
Aye.